In the heart of a heavily residential part of Alexandria, granite coffins and marble pillars frame an unassumingly small yard above what is considered to be one of the wonders of the Middle Ages. The Catacombs of el-Shoqofa. Believed to be tunneled into the Alexandrian bedrock at some point in the 2nd century, the tri-tiered catacombs were used initially by a private family to preserve and house relatives, though the necropolis was later opened to the public for general ritual interment. Eventually, the structure was forgotten and lost to the centuries until its rediscovery in 1900 after a very unfortunate donkey fell down the main access shaft. German archaeologists would eventually excavate and discover a circular staircase cut parallel to the shaft that descended into a main entry rotunda. Much of the burial displays cut into the rock walls are rough-hewn, meant to fit either a soul body or multiple relics and objects that would accompany a body in a larger sarcophagi display. The archaeologists found a mass of terracotta pottery shards in a Romanesque dining hall beyond the rotunda, giving the catacombs the eventual title Catacombs el-Shoqofa, Arabic for Mound of Shards. The unique aspect of the catacombs is the Greek and Roman influences persistent throughout the iconography and deific representation etched into the main spaces. Egyptian deities are blended with Hellenistic presentation, evidence of Ptolemaic-era efforts to unify Greek and Egyptian cultures, mostly involving the cult of Serapis, a Greco-Egyptian god derived from the worship of Apis the bull and Osiris. These influences are most present in the main burial chamber spaces, where the deities present are not cut into the rock, as with typical Egyptian inscriptive methods, but cut out of it. The style of dress is also Greek in nature, while an exterior statue of Anubis is carved with a Roman legionary uniform. Syncretism, the blending of religions and cultures and ideas, permeates this place. On that subject, we're at another place with similar influences, the Amud El-Sawari, better known as Pompey's Pillar. Similar to the Colossi of Memnon, the Pompey part of the pillar's name is actually an erroneous attribution by European historical writers, possibly from a perpetuated misunderstanding of a Greek inscription at the bottom of the structure. The pillar was constructed as a monument to a campaign victory by Roman Emperor Diocletian against an attempted rebellion and usurpation of power in Roman Egypt. Built on the grounds of what used to be the Serapeum of Alexandria, a Ptolemaic initiative to promote the cult of Serapis before its destruction in the late 4th century, the pillar stands almost 27 meters tall, including base and cap. The base and main column mass are made of pink granite from near Aswan, with the cap being constructed of a gray granite of unknown origin. I mentioned the Serapeum a minute ago. Pompey's Pillar wasn't just built on the grounds of the Serapeum, it was literally constructed on top of the remains of the catacombs of the Serapeum. Similar to Catacombs el-Shoqofa, rough-cut burial platforms are cut into the bedrock layer throughout tunnels that cross below the surface complex. A diorite statue of Serapis, represented in his bull incarnation with the sun disk between its horns, waits at the end of a long hallway, a hidden monument to Greek-Egyptian syncretism. A quick trip through the city takes us to less ancient times, but not so modern as the glass and steel high-rises in the back. The Citadel of Qaitbay, built in the 15th century as a fortification of Alexandria against Ottoman incursions into the northern Egyptian region, was constructed on the remains of the famous Lighthouse of Alexandria, after the lighthouse was destroyed by earthquakes in the early 14th century. A predominantly limestone construction, the fortress not only garrisoned soldiers in a coastal defense of Alexandria, but also housed a mosque. Although the then Supreme Council of Antiquities restored the fortress's historic neglect and disrepair from previous decades, the rooms are still largely empty and full of echoes of the past.
This is a library like a raising sun disk to light the world.
The past can be a thing of the future as well. When we came to Alexandria, I was personally excited to see the commemoration to the lost Great Library of Alexandria, the Bibliotheca Alexandrina. You could probably guess what the Latin phrasing stands for. With space for 8 million books, multiple art galleries, a planetarium, 4 museums, a digital library repository, and a lab for manuscript restoration, the Bibliotheca is an ultra-modern adaptation of what the Great Library sought to embody. Through literature and information, every library is in some way an act of preservation, not at all dissimilar to the temples and monuments of antiquity that we had been visiting. Be it etched into stone, or painted onto papyrus, woven by thread onto cloth, or carved in wood, inked by block onto paper, or digitized into hypertext, spoken, sung, or gestured, every bit of information that can be communicated is history, if it can be kept. Obviously, some mediums last longer than others, but if it can be kept, if it can be found, then the act of preservation succeeds. The Bibliotheca Alexandrina represents a great syncretic potential of preservation, and I hope it persists. After a long drive back to Cairo and an even longer flight to Frankfurt, Germany, our Egyptian trip is over. We leave behind rock and dust and even more ancient history, and then it's wheels up, blue skies, and on to our next adventure.